This little street urchin uncovers a millionaire's wife's secret, but in the days that follow, something terrible happens. Comment and give my story a rating from 0 to 10. Your opinion is very important, and become a member of my channel for access to exclusive videos. The morning sun illuminated the uneven cobblestones as the small figure positioned herself in her usual spot. The 4-year-old girl, appearing frail and looking more like a 2-year-old due to severe malnutrition, fixed her large, attentive eyes on the imposing mansion that dominated the most prestigious corner of the historic district. Her bare feet touched the cold ground, but she remained motionless, like a small statue observing the activity of the 3-story colonial-style house. For 6 months, this routine repeated religiously. Every day, without exception, the child walked the cobblestone streets until she reached the same vantage point. She didn't beg for alms, didn't bother passers-by. She just watched. Her gifted mind, endowed with an exceptional photographic memory, recorded every detail of the daily life of that family living behind the high walls and ornate iron gates. The 30-year-old widowed millionaire was an impressive figure. Tall, elegant, with features reminiscent of a golden age movie star, he had amassed his fortune through savvy investments in the stock market and fixed income securities that grew steadily. His net worth in dollars seemed limitless to any ordinary person in the small town of Oak Haven. There were rumors that he kept part of his wealth in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, diversifying his assets in a way that few local businessmen could understand. The girl knew his every move. She knew that at 7 in the morning, he went out for a run in the property's internal garden. At 8, he had coffee on the back porch. At 9, he entered his private office where he managed his business and investments. Her ability to observe details that went unnoticed by adults was astonishing for a child her age. 3 years earlier, the millionaire had lost his first wife under circumstances that the entire town discussed in whispers. The woman had disappeared during a stormy night, leaving only a cryptic note that spoke of family secrets and the need to protect someone important. The man plunged into deep sorrow, isolating himself in his mansion for 2 full years. It was then that he met his current wife, an elegant 28-year-old woman of refined beauty and aristocratic manners. She had arrived in town as an outsider, with no known family or clear past. What was striking was her refined education and the way she managed to win the wounded heart of the millionaire in a matter of months. The wedding was discreet, celebrated only with a few close friends and business partners. The girl watched as the wife went out every morning for her social activities. She frequented the country club, participated in charity events for the ladies of high society, and shopped in the most expensive stores in the downtown area. Always impeccably dressed, driving an imported car that gleamed in the sun, she represented everything the local elite admired. But there was something that intrigued the little observer. For the past 2 months, when the millionaire traveled on business, which happened frequently due to his investments in various cities, the wife received nightly visits from a man who looked extraordinarily like her husband. The resemblance was so striking that initially the girl thought the millionaire had returned early from his travels. However, her privileged memory retained every detail. She had seen the millionaire leave for the airport in his private car, accompanied by the driver. She had counted the hours until the mysterious visitor appeared at the mansion. The math didn't add up. It was impossible for it to be the same person. The man always arrived after 10 at night, when the streets were deserted. He wore clothes similar to the millionaire's, had the same height and build, but there was something different about his movements. The girl, with her peculiar ability of observation, noticed that he walked more hesitantly, as if he were unsure of where to step. During these visits, which lasted several hours, the house remained with few lights on. Only the master bedroom and a room in the back showed signs of activity. The child, hidden behind a tree in the square in front, could see silhouettes moving through the silk curtains. When the millionaire returned from his business trips, always the day after the mysterious visits, the situation became even more confusing. The nightly visitor simply disappeared, as if he had never existed. The wife greeted her husband with warm kisses and hugs, showing a happiness that seemed genuine. The girl developed theories in her childish mind. Maybe it was a secret twin brother, maybe it was a very similar cousin, or maybe it was some kind of look-alike that the wife hired so she wouldn't feel alone during her husband's absences. Her explanations were innocent, but her intuition told her that there was something deeply wrong with that situation. What intrigued her most was the genuine affection she felt for the millionaire. On the rare occasions when he noticed her sitting on the sidewalk, he always smiled at her gently and sometimes left a few coins beside her before continuing his walk. Unlike other wealthy residents of the area who ignored her completely or shooed her away with harsh words, he showed a kindness that touched her wounded heart. It was this affection that motivated her to protect him, even without fully understanding from what. In her 4-year-old mind, she had decided that she needed to tell the kind man about the strange visits his wife was receiving. She didn't understand the adult implications of the situation, but she knew instinctively that secrets of that kind caused pain. The opportunity arose on a Tuesday morning when the millionaire decided to walk through the outer gardens of his property. The girl, gathering all her courage, approached the gate and called out to him with her small, trembling voice. The millionaire stopped his morning walk upon hearing the childish voice calling to him. He turned and saw the small, thin figure clinging to the bars of the gate, her big eyes shining with a mixture of determination and fear. There was something about that child that always touched his heart in an inexplicable way, a vulnerability that reminded him of his own difficult childhood before building his financial empire. "What is it, little one?" he asked, approaching with the gentle smile he reserved only for her. The girl took a deep breath, organizing in her mind the words she had rehearsed for days. "Sir, I need to tell you something important about your wife." The man frowned, intrigued by the seriousness in the child's voice. Something in her tone made him pay real attention, not just the politeness he normally devoted to casual encounters. "She gets visitors when you travel," the girl continued, pointing to the mansion. "A man who looks a lot like you, but it's not you." The words hit the millionaire like a punch to the stomach. For the past few months, a strange feeling had bothered him whenever he returned from his business trips. Small details out of place, a different male cologne in the air, objects slightly displaced, an almost imperceptible tension in his wife's behavior. "How do you know it's not me?" he asked, crouching down to be at the girl's height. "Because I saw you leave by car for the airport at 3 in the afternoon, and the man arrived at 10 o'clock the same night," she replied, with the precision of someone with a photographic memory. "He stays until morning and leaves before you get back." The millionaire felt his world begin to crumble. All his suspicions, which he had tried to bury under layers of trust and love, now took concrete form through the innocent words of a child. His fortune built with so much effort, his carefully planned investments, none of that mattered in the face of the possibility of being betrayed by the only person he had returned to trust after the devastating loss of his first wife. "How many times have you seen this happen?" he asked, trying to keep his voice controlled. 8 times in the last 2 months, the girl replied without hesitating. "Always when you travel. Always the same man." At that moment, the wife's melodious voice echoed from the internal garden. "Honey, who are you talking to?" The millionaire got up quickly, his heart pounding in his chest. His wife approached with a radiant smile, wearing a floral dress that enhanced her natural beauty. In the eyes of any casual observer, she represented the perfect image of the devoted and happy wife. "Just our little neighbor," he replied, trying to sound casual as he watched the woman's reaction to seeing the girl carefully. The wife looked at the child with an expression that changed subtly. The smile remained, but something icy passed through her eyes. "How sweet," she said, but her voice carried an almost imperceptible tension. "You shouldn't be on the streets alone, dear. It's dangerous for such a little girl." The girl, with her extraordinary ability to read people, immediately felt the change in the air. The apparent kindness of the millionaire's wife hid something darker, something that made her survival instincts kick in. "I was just talking to the gentleman," the child murmured, taking a step back. "Of course, dear," the wife said, maintaining the forced smile. "But maybe it's best if you look for your family. I'm sure they're worried." The millionaire watched the interaction with growing discomfort. He had known his wife for 2 years and had never seen her show any kind of impatience or coldness towards children. On the contrary, she always talked about her desire to have children and how she loved childhood innocence. "Actually," he said, making an impulsive decision, "how about we invite our little friend to have breakfast with us? She seems hungry." The suggestion clearly caught the wife by surprise. Her smile faltered for a split second before recomposing herself. "What a lovely idea, dear. But don't you think we should ask her parents first?" "She doesn't have parents," the girl said in a low voice, her words carrying a deep sadness that made the millionaire's heart clench. The wife seemed genuinely shocked by the revelation. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Who do you live with then?" "I live alone," the child replied, with the naturalness of someone who had grown accustomed to a reality too harsh for her age. The millionaire felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Anger at not having noticed the girl's situation before, guilt for allowing a child to live in such conditions right in front of his house, and a strange sense of connection that he couldn't explain. "Then it's settled," he declared. "You're going to have breakfast with us, and then we'll talk about how we can help." As they walked towards the house, the wife whispered in his ear, "Are you sure this is a good idea? We don't know anything about her." "She's just a child in need," he replied, but his words carried a firmness that his wife rarely heard. "And something tells me she has a lot to teach us." During the breakfast served on the elegant veranda of the mansion, the girl watched everything with her attentive eyes. The mahogany table, the fine china, the silver cutlery. Everything represented a world completely different from her own. But what caught her attention the most were the micro-expressions on the millionaire's wife's face. The woman maintained a polite conversation, asking about the girl's life on the streets, showing appropriate concern. But there were moments when her gaze became calculating, especially when the child mentioned details about her routine of observing the house. "You stay here in front of the house every day?" the wife asked with seemingly innocent curiosity. "Yes, I like to watch people," the girl replied honestly. "I learn a lot just by watching." "And what do you learn watching our house?" the woman insisted, her voice maintaining a sweet tone but carrying a subtle intensity. The millionaire noticed his wife's insistence and felt uncomfortable. Why was she so interested in the observing habits of a street child? "I learn about happy families," the girl said, looking directly at the millionaire. "How people who love each other take care of each other." The answer touched the man deeply, but he noticed how his wife tensed slightly. There was something about that whole situation that didn't fit, pieces of a puzzle that were beginning to form a disturbing picture. "Darling," the wife said, rising gracefully, "how about we show our new little friend the house?" I'm sure she'd be impressed with the internal garden. The suggestion seemed innocent, but something in the tone of voice made the girl hesitate. Her instincts, sharpened by life on the streets, detected a subtle change in the environment. The millionaire also perceived the growing tension, although he couldn't identify exactly what was causing his discomfort. When they stood up for the tour of the property, the girl discreetly held the millionaire's hand, a small gesture that revealed her need for protection. He gently squeezed the small fingers, silently promising that he wouldn't let anything happen to her. What none of the three knew was that that seemingly simple morning would be the trigger for a sequence of revelations that would forever change the lives of everyone involved. The tour of the mansion began in the main hall, where a crystal chandelier hung majestically over the imported marble floor. The girl walked with careful steps, her eyes recording every detail of the opulence that surrounded her. Valuable paintings decorated the walls, and antique furniture of noble wood occupied every corner with studied elegance. "This is the main living room," the wife explained with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Where we receive our most important guests." The millionaire watched his wife carefully, noticing for the first time how her words sounded rehearsed, as if she were playing a role. During the 2 years of marriage, he had never paid attention to these subtle details, but the girl's revelations made him hypersensitive to any suspicious behavior. "And that's my office," he said, pointing to a solid oak door. "It's where I manage my investments and funds." The girl nodded, remembering the mornings when she saw him through the window, hunched over papers and computers, managing the fortune he had built with years of hard work. His diversified assets ranged from shares in tech companies to investments in gold and precious metals, a strategy that had exponentially multiplied his net worth. As he climbed the stairs towards the second floor, his wife commented casually, "Honey, you said she watches us every day. Has she seen anything interesting?" The seemingly innocent question made the millionaire stop halfway up the stairs. There was a tension in her voice that he had never noticed before, a disguised urgency that put him on alert. "I see you loving each other," the girl replied, with the brutal honesty of children. "But sometimes I see things that confuse me." "What kind of things?" his wife insisted, her perfectly manicured nails tightening on the banister. The millionaire stepped down one step, instinctively positioning himself between his wife and the child. Something primal in his brain had triggered an alert, a sense of danger that he couldn't rationally explain. "Maybe we should show her the garden now," he suggested, trying to change the subject. "No, it's okay," his wife said quickly. "I'm just curious about the unique perspective of our little observer." The girl looked at the millionaire, seeking encouragement in his eyes. There was something in his wife's behavior that made her feel like a small, cornered animal, but the protective presence of the kind man gave her the courage to continue. "I saw the man who looks like you," she said finally. "He comes when you're not here." The silence that followed was deafening. The wife paled visibly, her hands trembling almost imperceptibly. The millionaire felt as if the ground had opened up beneath his feet, confirming his worst fears through the innocent words of a child. "What man?" his wife asked, her voice now laden with a tension she could no longer hide. "The one who sleeps in your bed when the gentleman is traveling," the girl replied, without fully understanding the impact of her words. The wife's reaction was explosive and unexpected. Her eyes filled with tears, but not of sadness, of pure panic. She ran towards the kitchen, leaving the millionaire and the girl alone on the stairs, both confused by the intensity of her reaction. "Did I say something wrong?" the child asked, her small voice laden with guilt. "No, little one. You told the truth," the millionaire replied, his voice heavy with a pain he was only beginning to process. "And sometimes the truth hurts." They went down the stairs in silence, heading to the kitchen where they found the wife, leaning against the granite countertop, holding a vegetable knife she had taken from the block. Her tears fell silently, but there was something disturbing in her eyes, a mixture of despair and determination that made the millionaire feel a chill down his spine. "Honey, what's going on?" he asked, approaching cautiously. "She knows too much," the wife whispered, staring at the girl. "She's going to ruin everything." The child, with her instincts sharpened by life on the streets, immediately sensed the danger. She began to back away slowly, but her movements seemed to awaken something primal in the millionaire's wife. "You can't tell anyone else," the woman said, advancing towards the girl with the knife in her hand. "You can't destroy our family." The millionaire reacted instinctively, placing himself between his wife and the child. But instead of trying to disarm the woman violently, he did something completely unexpected. He opened his arms and enveloped her in a tight embrace, whispering in her ear in a voice filled with understanding. "I already know, my love. I know everything." The knife fell to the floor with a metallic clang that echoed through the silent kitchen. The wife collapsed into her husband's arms, her sobs now uncontrollable. "How?" she managed to ask through tears. "I hired an investigator 3 weeks ago," he admitted. "The suspicions were consuming me, but what he discovered was far more complex than I imagined." The girl watched the scene without fully understanding, but sensing the dramatic change in the atmosphere. The dangerous tension had turned into something different: pain, but also relief. "The man who comes here is not your lover," the millionaire continued, stroking his wife's hair. "He's your brother, your twin brother, who everyone believed had died in the accident 5 years ago." The revelation hit the girl like lightning. Her gifted mind began to reprocess all the observations she had made, rearranging the pieces of the puzzle under a new perspective. The physical similarity was no coincidence. It was genetic. "He's sick," the wife sobbed. "He ran away from the institution where he was interned. He has episodes, moments when he doesn't recognize anyone. He gets violent, but I couldn't abandon him." "Why didn't you tell me?" the millionaire asked, his voice laden more with sadness than with anger. "Because you lost your first wife because of family secrets," she replied, raising her tear-streaked face. "She hid her father's mental illness, and when you found out, you felt betrayed. I read your letters. I saw how it destroyed her. I couldn't risk losing you too." The girl, even without understanding all the adult details of the situation, felt the genuine pain that permeated the conversation. Her extraordinary empathetic ability captured the raw emotions circulating between the couple. "So the scenes I saw," the child began hesitantly. "You saw a sister taking care of a sick brother," the wife explained, crouching down to be at the girl's height. "During the crises, he sometimes thinks we're still children. I need to calm him down, stay with him, until the confusion passes. That's why he seemed insecure when he walked," the girl observed, her photographic memories gaining new meaning. "And that's why you always looked sad after he left." The millionaire looked at the child with growing admiration. Her ability to observe and analyze surpassed that of many adults. But there was something more, an intuitive kindness that touched him deeply. "Where is he now?" he asked his wife. "Hidden in the attic of the guest house," she admitted. "He's been living there for 2 months. I didn't know how to explain it, how to ask for your help." "Take me to him," the millionaire said. "We need to talk, the 3 of us." As they walked towards the back of the property, the girl held the couple's hands, feeling strangely part of that troubled family. She didn't know yet that her presence that day had saved not only her own life, but had also created the opportunity to heal family wounds that had remained open for years. The attic of the guest house was dark and stuffy. When the wife called softly to her brother, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man identical to the millionaire, but with eyes that carried deep confusion and a heartbreaking vulnerability. The wife's brother emerged completely from the shadows, revealing a man who looked like a fragmented version of the millionaire. His hair was disheveled, his clothes rumpled, but what was most striking were his eyes, sometimes lucid and intelligent, sometimes lost in a world that only he could see. "Who is he?" the man asked, pointing to the millionaire with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "He's my husband," the wife replied softly, approaching her brother with slow, careful movements. "Remember I told you about him?" The millionaire watched the interaction with fascination and compassion. He could clearly see the physical similarity that had confused the girl, but he also perceived the subtle differences caused by mental illness. There was a childish vulnerability in the man's behavior that contrasted drastically with his own commanding presence. "And the child?" the brother asked, noticing the girl hiding behind the millionaire's legs. "A friend," the wife said, "someone who helped us solve our problems." The girl, with her extraordinary ability to perceive, immediately felt a special connection with the sick man. There was something in his vulnerability that echoed her own experience of abandonment and confusion. Slowly, she approached him, extending her small hand. "Do you like to draw?" she asked, noticing some sketches scattered on the attic floor. The man's face lit up with a genuine smile. "Very much. I draw birds. Do you want to see?" For the next hour, an extraordinary transformation took place. The wife's brother showed his artistic creations, drawings and paintings of surprising beauty that revealed an exceptional talent. His works captured not only the physical form of the birds, but also their essence of freedom and movement. "These are amazing," the millionaire murmured, examining a canvas that depicted a group of swallows in flight. "They have real artistic value." "He's always been talented," the wife said with mixed pride and sadness. "Before the accident, he studied fine arts. The doctors said that creativity is one of the few things that has remained intact." The girl sat next to the artist and began to draw with him, using the improvised materials he had collected. Her small hands created simple but expressive birds, and the connection between them was palpable. "She understands," the man said to his sister, watching the child draw. "She also wants to fly away." The words touched the millionaire deeply. Looking at the abandoned girl and the wounded man, he began to understand that his wealth and assets had a greater purpose than simply accumulating assets and dividends. "We need to talk about the future," he said, addressing his wife. "We can't keeping your brother hidden. He needs professional help." "I tried," she replied, tears returning to her eyes. "But every institution I looked into wanted to institutionalize him permanently. He's not violent, just confused sometimes. He deserves to live with dignity." "What if we hire private caregivers?" the millionaire suggested. "Professionals who can help him here at home, where he feels safe." The proposal completely changed the atmosphere of the attic. For the first time in months, the wife glimpsed a real possibility of a solution to the dilemma that was consuming her. "Would you do that?" she asked, hardly able to believe it. "We are a family," he replied firmly, "and families take care of each other." During the following weeks, the life of the small family was radically transformed. The millionaire used part of his fortune to hire the best mental health specialists in the region. Occupational therapists, psychiatrists specializing in brain trauma, and experienced caregivers began to frequent the property daily. The girl, officially welcomed by the family while awaiting the legal procedures for adoption, became a key piece in the wife's brother's recovery process. Her innocent and genuine presence had an extraordinary calming effect on him, especially during episodes of confusion. "She's like an angel," commented one of the therapists. "She has a natural ability to connect with traumatized patients." The girl blossomed under the care of the family. She gained weight, her skin regained its healthy glow, and her big eyes now shone with joy instead of fear. More importantly, her exceptional empathetic ability found a purpose, helping in the emotional healing of everyone around her. The wife's brother, with proper treatment and a loving environment, began to have increasingly long periods of lucidity. During these moments, he revealed himself to be an intelligent and sensitive man whose artistic talent developed impressively. "I want to have an exhibition," he said during a therapy session. "I want people to see that someone like me can also create beauty." The millionaire embraced the idea with enthusiasm. He used his contacts and resources to organize an exhibition in a prestigious gallery in the state capital. The brother-in-law's paintings and drawings, depicting birds in all their forms and movements, caused a sensation in the local art world. But it was during the preparations for the exhibition that the greatest revelation of all emerged. While organizing the works in the attic that had become a makeshift studio, the girl found a folder hidden behind a stack of canvases. "What's this?" she asked, showing the millionaire old photographs. He examined the images and felt his heart stop. They were photographs of his first wife, but not the ones he knew. In these, she appeared in a hospital, thin and fragile, but alive. "Where did you find this?" he asked his brother-in-law urgently. "The lady from the hospital," the man replied with difficulty. "She said she knew you. She said she wanted you to know she was okay." The final revelation crashed down on the millionaire like an avalanche. His first wife had not died. She had been admitted to a psychiatric clinic after a nervous breakdown, caused by the pressure of hiding her own father's mental problems. The letter she had left was not a farewell, but a desperate plea for understanding. During the following months, the family faced the most complex challenge of their lives. The millionaire visited his first wife at the clinic, finding her in the process of recovery, but still fragile. The situation required an emotional maturity that tested everyone involved. His current wife, demonstrating an extraordinary generosity of spirit, not only supported the reunion, but also helped facilitate the first wife's healing process. "True love wants the good of the loved one," she said, "even if it means sacrificing one's own happiness." The girl, now an integral part of the family, served as an emotional bridge between all the wounded adults. Her pure presence and innocent observations helped to dissipate tensions and create moments of genuine understanding. The first wife, after months of treatment and family support, made a decision that surprised everyone. In an emotional meeting at the mansion, she announced that she had decided to rebuild her life independently, blessing the current marriage of her ex-husband. "You found each other when you both needed healing," she said, holding the couple's hands. "That's a gift, not a betrayal." The art exhibition of the wife's brother was an absolute success. The sales of his works not only guaranteed his financial independence, but also established his reputation as a relevant artist. More importantly, the public recognition of his talent restored his self-esteem and sense of purpose. A year after that first meeting at the gate, the family gathered in the mansion's garden for a special celebration. The millionaire and his wife renewed their vows in an intimate ceremony. The brother-in-law was inaugurating his own studio in the back of the property, and the first wife, now completely recovered, shared the news of her engagement with a therapist she had met during treatment. The girl, now a radiant 5-year-old, painted her first self-portrait next to the man who had become her adoptive father. On the canvas, she portrayed herself surrounded by flying birds, finally free to dream of a bright future. "Did you know all this would happen when you told me about the visits?" the millionaire asked the girl on that golden afternoon. "No," she replied, with the honesty that had always characterized her. "I just wanted to protect you because you were kind to me." "And you ended up protecting all of us," he said, hugging her tenderly. That night, as the stars shone over the small town of Oak Haven, the family discovered that sometimes the most painful secrets, when revealed with love and courage, can transform into the foundations of the deepest and most lasting connections. If you enjoyed this wonderful story, please comment. Your opinion is very important. And if you love beautiful stories, subscribe to my channel. I promise to make your day better with my videos.